Okay guys, this is the location we want to shoot today. I guess also we try to shoot around on that island over there. Because remember last time I was here, it has some pretty cool cracks in the rock. And if we can find a cool position with water in the cracks, we have some leading lines. Around 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. You need much movement in the water. You know, you need to find a place with really huge difference between the waves. Best place would be a spot with no water, with no waves, and if the waves are coming in, you may have maybe 1 or 1.5 meter more water there. With an area like that, you can shoot these foggy, dreamy pictures. All the water will just look like fog or just like mist. My camera says I have to use 8 seconds exposure to have it well exposed. If I use photo pills now, I can use my exposure time meter or exposure time measurement tool or calculating tool. I just have to set all my settings here. My ISO is on 32. My exposure time is around 8 seconds without the filter. So if I use a 10 stop with the same settings, same aperture, okay, it won't, it needs 2 hours exposure time. So we don't use a 10 stop, we maybe just use 6 stop. With a 6 stop, we're around 8 minutes. So if we now change the ISO to 100, we need 2 minutes or 3 minutes, it's not enough. 64, 4 minutes, still not what we want. Yeah, but it's the only choice I have. So maybe 1 step more. Yep. Okay, what we have to do now is we have to put our ISO to 64. That's ISO 64. We have to put also the aperture to 13. And now we use a 6 stop filter. Make sure everything is clean on the filter. Okay. Hello and back again. In this video I want to show you a little bit how I work with filters and which type of filters I use. Maybe you can see it. I use Nisi Filters. Of course, I'm Nisi Global Ambassador. That's why I use that. Or no, maybe I am Global Ambassador, Nisi Global Ambassador because I use Nisi Filters. For me, they are by far the best. But make your choice and use which filter you want. They are working almost same. There are some different type of filters. I use mainly just square filters. I have a 100 millimeter set and a 150 millimeter set. It is also possible to use the 150 millimeter on a smaller lens with an adapter, but I use both just to have it. It is easier to work for me than change everything always. Most of the time, or not most of the time, never use screw up filters, because in my type of shooting it doesn't work if I always have to take it away and again, back again on it. So I just use square filters. Square filters are mostly pretty easy to use. You have like the filter holder. That one is for every lens you have another holder. So you just have to put that on the lens like that. Then you can turn that to fix it. You have a screw to fix it really. And like that, it is perfectly on the lens. If you use a lens with which you can put something on your lens, you can use the 100mm system. You just have to put that like that on the lens if it works, and you're on the same place like now. Next thing, you can use your CPL. CPL is a pretty cool thing if you want to remove some reflections on airy, not metallic surfaces, means like water or like on trees. You can make your sky darker, the blue of your sky darker. So it is a pretty cool thing. I'll use it most of the time because the cool thing about the Nisi holder is you just can screw that in. And now you just can turn that like this, and you can see how your reflection changed. In the picture you can see now on the side, or you see how reflections are changing if we just turn on that wheel. You can change that to no reflection or to really strong reflections. The most effect of a CPL filter you have if you are 90 degrees to the sun. So if you face directly to the sun, it has most of the time not a really strong effect, but also a little bit. There is one problem with CPL filters. If you use a CPL on an ultra-wide angle lens, sometimes the depolarization is not same in the whole picture because, as I said, the most effect you have 90 degrees to the sun. With ultra-wide angle, you have around 130 degrees angle, which you can take your picture. So the sun face not always from the same angle into your CPL. But you see that just if you have maybe, for example, a clear blue sky, then you can see some darker and brighter areas in the sky. That's why most of the time, if I use a CPL, I shoot 2 or 3 different pictures with other CPL settings. Same is on the 100mm system. You have it also here. If I find it over here, you can just screw that in your holder. And now you're able to use that wheel to turn around your filter. It's a pretty cool thing because like that you have always the CPL in the holder. Don't forget, if you use a CPL, you lose 2 stops. It is sometimes pretty cool because if you shoot in a wood or something, where maybe you want to shoot a waterfall in the wood, you don't need to use also ND filter because the 2 steps darker with the CPL is most of the time enough to have the perfect exposure time for the water. But this is another point. Okay, next thing, if you want to use like a GND, I'll use most of the time a GND, means a graduated neutral density filter. That looks like that. You just need to take your holder like that. You put it in it. Maybe we do it on that side. You put it in your holder. And now you just do it like that. And you have it perfectly in front of it. The cool thing is, if you want to remove it, you just need to use this small screw and you can remove it. Now you just have to bring that in the right position and you have much more dynamic range in the camera because the brighter sky is darker and the darker foreground has still the same brightness, but it is closer together. Only problem with GND is if you shoot maybe in a valley with really high rocks on the side, the top of the rocks, they start to getting darker. So you have to make a decision if you want to use it or not. But I most of the time use it. Next thing is if you want to add an ND filter. For example, we use here just a 3-stop filter and an ND 0.9. You just remove that again. Put it behind the GND. If you place the ND in front of the GND, you have a problem because the GND is darker on top and brighter on the bottom, so you will have not a perfectly exposed picture. So always put first the ND, next the GND. Then you place it again. You use the screw to set the perfect position of your CPL and you're ready to shoot. I show you how to shoot and also which exposure time you have to use in the on-location video, but I guess this is important to know how you have to use it. Same with the 100mm system. You just use that one. It's not easy to do that if it is not on a camera. Place it over here. Use the GND or whatever. And if the sun is a little bit more on the right side, you just turn it a little bit around and you have a perfectly exposed picture. I use most of the time ND filter if it is possible. There is one big reason why I use it. The longer you can take your exposure time, the softer are all the shadows. So I prefer to use long exposure times if I want to shoot, for example, a mountain or something without trees or whatever in foreground, because the sun moves a little bit. If I take, for example, 3 minutes exposure time, the sun moves a little bit, and even the shadow are moving. And like that, there is a small fade from light to the shadow, so that all the shadows are much softer. As you can see that in this image, the first one is shooting without a filter. So we have really, really hard shadows. That one is made with a ND 4.5. So took a 7-minute exposure. If you see the shadows in the background on the rock or also on the house on top of the mountain, you see how soft they are. Only problem, the grass in the foreground is not anymore sharp. So you have to make a decision. Sometimes I take just a second exposure to shoot the foreground separately. And sometimes I do it in a single shot like that. This one is a single shot. This one is the edited version of everything. Same time, maybe 5 minutes later, but can you see how it looks? The feeling is really soft. My decision in this case was took it in a single shot, even if the grass is not perfectly sharp, because of the soft light on the grass looks much cooler than the one from the hard exposure, from the short exposure. So always try to shoot with ND filters if you want to have this dreamy look. The other thing is, with ND filter you are able to set your perfect exposure time. You are able to say how long you want to expose your picture. So as you will see in the on-location video, we try different shutter speeds to see the movement in the water. And in this case, it is a seascape tutorial. Of course, we are shooting just on the sea, but even if you shoot on a waterfall or wherever, there is always a perfect exposure time. You just have to fix that. Of course, you just can change your aperture, so maybe you close it more to have a longer exposure time. The problem is if you close it too much, if you close it more than f16, your whole picture is not sharp enough anymore because of the diffraction blurs. That's why I always try to shoot not with too closed aperture, also not too open. So my preferred aperture is f11 on full frame. So I always try to be around there. Maybe I go till f8 and also till f15 or 16. Also, I also can change the ISO between the lowest, so the 32 ISO, or sometimes I go till 1000. It depends on how far you can go with your camera. But if I'm not able to change some of this settings because I don't want to have more noise or more distraction blur or whatever, I just change the filter. So I have a ND 0.9, a ND 1.8, which is 6 stop, ND 3, which is 10 stop, ND 4.5, and so on. I change that, then I have to go back with the ISO and everything to be on the same level, and I can restart again to set my ISO. Yeah, I guess these are the most important things about filters. The rest I will show you in the on-location videos on Tenerife. We see us in the next video. Have a nice day. Bye.